Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast on Medtalks with Syed Raza. And tonight we are going to discuss a very important, interesting, and a hot subject that is AI or artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, as you all know, is taking the technology to newer heights, and it is still rising by leaps and bounds. We know that this is perhaps the best and the most robust innovation this generation has ever seen. While it opens doors for opportunities and convenience, it also throws some challenges and threats. We have a very special guest tonight who will navigate us through what AI or artificial intelligence is, particularly in healthcare, and what are the utilities, what are some of the misconceptions, and why you should not be afraid of AI, but you should adopt and then adapt AI. So let me introduce our guest. And I welcome Dr. Raman Bhargav, who is a medical doctor. He is also a computer engineer, a policy maker, an entrepreneur. Wow. And he has degrees in biology, computer engineering, MD, and MBA. He is affiliated with Stanford University School of Medicine at California in USA. He is currently in AI space, helping companies of all sizes navigate the AI landscape and implement working custom systems that meet their needs. With deep curiosity about healthcare AI and its societal impacts, Bhargav has explored medical trends, ethical considerations, and practical applications of artificial intelligence in clinical settings. Passionate about innovation and creative problem solving, Bhargav brings a multidimensional perspective to this discussion. And I'm so excited, very thrilled to see you, Bhargav, and welcome to this platform.
Thank you. Very excited to be here, and thank you for the amazing introduction there.
Okay, so let's begin. And I'll start with something, it may be dear to your heart, but I'm really very much looking forward to as what your answer is going to be. So where exactly your love and passion with AI or artificial intelligence, particularly in healthcare, start?
It's kind of funny. So in the late 90s, there was this game kind of thing, and basically you would teach a mouse to find cheese in a maze. It's one of the early implementations of neural networks.
Right.
So I was playing that. I think I must have been like 12 years old, something like that at the
Right.
time. Um, that's really when I started becoming interested in AI, right? That
Okay.
game. And then there were some chatbots and things like that back then, one of which was actually named Claude, which is one of the big AI um, chatbots that you can interact with today. I started doing research in medical imaging, uh, diagnostics, computer diagnosis, and image processing back in 2000 when I was in high school. So I was maybe
Sure.
17 at the time. And that's really when I got into the whole healthcare AI space. So I've been in this space for a while.
Okay, and I did a little bit research about you. So you are a radiologist as a medical professional, right?
Yes, I
Okay,
am.
so you have a lot of utilities for AI and artificial intelligence. Okay, so moving on, AI probably still quite new. A lot of healthcare professionals, they are naive to this technology, although we know that it has existed for a couple of decades or more. So just to help the audience to understand as to what exactly is AI in just simple terms, in very easy way. And also, more importantly, what are some of the misconceptions? There are a lot of misconceptions, but I would like to hear it from you.
I think the main thing to understand is that artificial intelligence as a definition isn't a monolithic definition. There are varying levels of AI, and it's sometimes incorrectly used when you're talking about certain types of systems. But you go from all the way from like knowledge-based systems. For example, one of the
Sure.
first algorithms I implemented was algorithm to go and identify vessels in CT angiograms. Um,
Right.
and actually including anatomic variants and stuff like that, and that was a knowledge based system. So to sort of, well, we knew what all the anatomic variants were, so we can build an algorithm based on that, and then anything else that's outside of that knowledge base of known anatomic variants um, would be identified as unidentifiable, right? So I'm using this as an example. So the next step, right, would be an AI that we don't need to teach all the anatomic variants. It just knows, for example, where a vessel is going. It's going to the spleen, therefore it's probably splenic vein or splenic artery, right?
Sure.
Um, that would be sort of the next step. Is there's some level of reasoning in there, so you can go. There's many steps on all the way up to artificial, what's called as artificial general intelligence, which is similar to you and me. It'd be more like more human in the sense that you can it'll act in a very general manner and can do you can teach it to do many different things.
Sure.
um, so the number one thing is to know that it is a spectrum, and whenever someone's evaluating a product or even building a product, you need to know where on the spectrum you are.
Sure. Okay. And so we know that artificial intelligence does play a big role in not only formulating a management plan, but also helps in detecting disease or illness early. And in some way, it also helps to prevent disease. And we all know that everybody is now talking about personalized care or precision medicine. And so, what do you think in this arena and where we are at the moment? And which areas of medicine, particularly, are being helped by AI in terms of providing that personalized care?
Yeah, that's the really interesting thing about AI is the era of that big implementation that can do everything is kind of over, right? And we're now getting to this point where you can scale personalization of a particular application, right? So in this case, an AI can learn about the human that it's interacting with, the human that it's working for, right? And so each implementation of the AI, we could potentially behave differently depending on the situation, be very specialized. So I think we are there in the sense that um, the technology is there. There just needs to be the vision and the market incentive to implement the applications there. So, for example, a patient could call into a clinic and get very personalized advice and help, coordination help, right, from the AI, and it doesn't need to, it won't act the same for every patient that's coming in.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Well, now I say that, well, AI is there for you. So it's your choice. You adopt it, adapt it, and alight on it, or you leave it, and you get left out. So that
Yeah.
brings me to the subject as to what is the current partnership, should I say, between healthcare professionals and AI developers. So we know that some people are out there who are very hesitant. They are quite nervous about this new tool. They have absolutely no idea what AI, artificial intelligence is, and rather they are a bit skeptical whether this gadget is or tool is going to bring some benefit or it is going to cause some harm.
Mhm. I think with AI, you don't need as much technical know-how for you to try it out and and see whether it helps. I mean, so in the US, we have a lot of insurance companies that we have to document prior authorization requests. We have to send letters
Yeah,
to them. Um, if you really ask doctors here, what are they using AI mainly for? It's that they makes these prior authorization letters for them. I think the main thing to think about AI is that it is not necessarily to reduce cognitive load. That's your job as a human.
yeah,
What it is there to do is to reduce administrative load. Now, the definition of what we consider to be administrative will change. But I think the main thing is that it's not, if you're trying to use it to reduce your cognitive load, you will be disappointed.
yeah.
But if you know what to put in the prior authorization letter or whatever else you have, then the AI will can help you and will do the administrative task of actually writing it for you. I know. So that's the way to think about it and think about its value.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that, what you said. But you also correctly said that don't reduce your cognitive value. Absolutely, I think that will be vital to retain. But I feel that doctors in the current era, they are particularly wearing too many hats. So we have the responsibility as a clinician, then we have
Mhm.
the administrative responsibility, then to teach. Then also some people are involved in research. Then on top of that, there are various administrative and the non-administrative part as well. So we are actually wearing a lot of hats. And I
Yeah.
personally feel if AI can help us there and help us to not get burnt out that easily, I believe that will be an excellent. And I was reading a few literature, and where it is clearly mentioned that a lot of nurses' time, particularly, at least
Hmm.
50% of the time, nurses are only documenting and writing notes, which seems to be a thankless job at the end of the day. But again, it is important for legal point of view because we all know that what is not documented is not done. But that's
That's
no
right.
fault of theirs. But similarly, even the doctors, we are writing notes, lots of administrative work. So, what is your thought about that? Do you think that will ease off with the advent of AI? I know it will be not so soon, but I'm hopeful. I'm sure, but I would like to hear from you.
So I think it's, I mean, at least in the US, it's already happening, right?
Yeah,
And I think it just
true.
requires a bit more adoption internationally. But the US is a bit of a crucible for some of this stuff. I mean, from the administrative workload standpoint, there's already AI scribes. We'll talk a little bit more about that
Yeah,
later on in the podcast, probably. Um, and that already reduces administrative load quite a bit. Um, but what's interesting is that, and to your point, if you ask a doctor, what do you want to be taken off your plate? It's not necessarily the note. It's the ordering of different medications, right? Coordinating with the pharmacy to make sure the medication is there. Calling the radiologist to get a read, on an X-ray, right? These are the kinds of things that take up time for the
sure.
doctor that
Yeah,
they don't really want to do, and that's where AI really, I think, will shine. Is saying that, well, no, we have a very heterogeneous system, but AI can be that duct tape, right? To coordinate, to make sure the information is there for the doctor when he or she needs it.
sure.
Make sure the patient has the information and all of the appointments set up and coordination, right? Um, so I think it's mainly going to be, I think the administrative load is going to go away eventually.
Yeah, I think that's what we hope, and I'm sure. AI will help us out there.
Hmm.
Well, as I said, that a lot of healthcare professionals, they are naive to artificial intelligence. So we see that there is a palpable nervousness or fear still in the minds of those individuals to use AI and these tools. Now, the nervousness I can understand for some of them, maybe, if at all, and if, God forbid, an AI makes a mistake or an error, and I know it just gives recommendation, but at the end of the day, it is the physician or the doctor who has to take the decision. And it is also well said that, if you are driving a car that is AI based, then at least have your hands on the wheels. So one fear, what I feel, some of the doctors may become a little bit slothful, little lazy to act upon, and be more proactive. So that is an issue. And so, as I mentioned, if God forbidden there is a mistake made or error made, so obviously, who is going to be blamed? Obviously, the health authority is going to take some action. So, who will be punished? You think the AI developer, or the doctor?
I wrote an article on this a little while ago, which is basically saying that the AI replacement has already begun in many places. And what I mean by that is we are already having patients being almost primarily taken care of by advanced practice providers, nurse practitioners or physician's assistants that don't have, the years of medical training that you and I went through, right?
Yeah,
And so they often learn on the job after they get out of school. Especially over here, there's a lot of nurse practitioner farms. Um, and all to understand how AI will be treated legally, you kind of need to look in that space. Like what happens when a nurse practitioner who's supervised by a physician makes a mistake? The physician gets blamed, right?
true.
It's physician's malpractice that gets done in. Now, if it's a nurse practitioner that's practicing independently, then that NP will have his or her own malpractice insurance, right?
Yeah,
Um, so it's kind of the same thing with AI. As long as AI is supervised by some physician, that some physician is looking at the note that's produced by the AI, the physician will end up getting blamed even if there's a mistake. At the point at which the AI is acting independently, without any physician oversight or supervision, then um, no, then the liability will shift to the manufacturer of that AI, right? The
yeah,
software company, right?
yeah.
And we'll have to figure out new regulatory frameworks to regulate AI when it's being used in that capacity, you know.
So, on a similar note, since we are discussing the patient harm, there also is a question about patient data and data security. And to my knowledge, artificial intelligence is still not what you call HIPAA compliant.
Mhm.
And so, what's your take on that? So, obviously, a lot of physicians, a lot of patients actually will be nervous that their data is not secured.
Yes. I mean, data security is always a massive issue. At least in the US, there's regulatory frameworks like HIPAA, like SOC 2 compliance. In Europe, there's GDPR
Yeah,
that governs this stuff. And really, when signing up for these kinds of services, you have to make sure that they're HIPAA compliant and or they're GDPR compliant. So to your point, the consumer artificial intelligence like ChatGPT is not HIPAA compliant, right? Especially when you're using the public thing and you haven't paid for the service or anything
yeah,
like that, right? Definitely your data is being used by OpenAI to train their models. But there are a lot of services that are HIPAA compliant, that are healthcare, compliant. And so that's what we just need to be very careful when doing the adoption.
Okay. Right. So let me move on to or switch gear, and very quickly we'll just cover a few more questions. So I'd like to have your view as to what is the role of artificial intelligence in medical education and medical research. I think there's a lot of work being done in pharmaceutical industry. So if you can just say a few sentences, few lines.
Yes, yes. I actually, medical education is near and dear to my heart. Is actually one of my first papers back in the day. And I think AI is going to be game changing in the education space. Um, because of the summarization capability, ability to get the points that you really need to know, out there. And this is key, the ability for example, AI voice agent or AI text agent to tutor someone, right, as they learn about subject matter. The problem here, of course, is that when using AI for education, you need to ground the information as well as possible, so that there's very few hallucinations, so it's not making up stuff, and no, and guardrails to ensure that it's not teaching the incorrect things to the student.
Sure. And how about the research, particularly the pharmaceutical research?
Yes, I mean, drug discovery is a big deal. I think, actually one of my colleagues who went to med school with me started a company around this quite a long time ago, even before generative AI. And uh, I think it's a big deal right now, because with drug discovery, most of the time it's a little bit like throwing darts at a dartboard, because you have a certain idea as to how the biological process works, some concept. Um, and so you create a drug that's intended to, cure this process. But there's so many different targets, and you need to find out which target correlates most with outcomes, with the disease process and severity, things like that. That's where the AI really comes into play. And again, just as I talked about before, this is an administrative issue. It's not a cognitive issue, right? Drug discovery, because you as a human have to come up with the concept that, hey, this is the targets that we might be looking at. These are the outcomes, and then design the AI to match the two. And a lot of times
Yeah.
this is a search problem, and that's where generative AI really shines, I think.
Okay. I'll come to the generative, and I have another question. What's the difference between generative and the agentic AI? But before that,
Oh yeah, sure.
to,
Go
to
ahead.
my knowledge, there are few trials, not few, I think there are a lot of trials being done now, like phase one and phase two, which can be virtual using AI, and where the drug molecules are being produced in many more numbers in shorter time,
Mhm.
and the trial failure rates are low. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of the idea, right? Is that you've looked at all the data. So the AI helps you analyze all the data that's available, and then so that and pretty much score these different targets and drugs that you might want to do a trial for. Um, and that really helps you, like, make reduce cycle time to getting to a drug that actually works. Again, this is a search problem. And if before humans were doing it, now AI will help us get through it much faster, you know.
And it will be, I believe, more precise because they can look at even the genetic component and which medication, particularly for the oncology drugs, which will
Yes.
work, which will not work, and will be more safer. Correct?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, again, it's a lot of this is guesswork, right? A lot of drug discovery is guesswork. So the idea in is how to make the best educated guess that you can make. And because of AI's ability to integrate data across different kinds of data and do that kind of integration, that's really the main power of this.
Okay. And very quickly, if you can just tell the difference, the generative and the agentic AI.
Of course, yes. Actually, it's agentic AI is a little bit. It's basically an evolution, right, on generative AI. So basically, with generative AI, you're talking that's the overall, umbrella under which all of these different types of
So more kind of
implementations.
general AI. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
or
So generative AI, well, no, the generative AI is just is an umbrella that includes general AIs, includes agentic
okay,
AIs, includes all of these other things. The idea behind generative is that it's based on large language models, based on transformer models, um, uh, and basically extremely large neural networks, right? That's
right?
basically what
Okay,
these things are. Now, agentic AI versus a general AI. A general AI would be something like ChatGPT or something like that, where it's supposed to be general purpose, right? You can
right,
ask it anything and it'll do anything. With agentic AI, usually where that's used is when you have a specific task in mind, what happens is you can create a chain of generative agents, like individual generative agents, each of which has been trained for that particular subtask. So
right.
basically, you take a big task, you put it into subtasks, and then um, you can use an agentic workflow to complete a bigger task. Okay, with each AI doing the best it can, and
Sure.
you may use
Can you give an
different.
example of agentic AI?
Yeah, yeah. So for example, let's say um, in a sales kind of setting, right?
Right,
Um, let's say you're trying to create recommendations for someone, right? For recommendations for someone to buy clothing or
yeah,
any number of other things. One thing you could do is just use an algorithm, right? It'll just go to the prior purchases. It'll somehow have some tags or something, and then try to predict like what the next things are, the next products that the customer might buy.
okay,
What a generative AI, what an agentic workflow would do, right, would be to first create, understand the customer at a very deep level, right?
right,
And so one of the AIs could go in and say, okay, I've looked at the prior purchases, I've looked at the customer's age and all of these things, and I know exactly what the customer is and wants.
interesting,
And then
interesting.
another AI will then figure out, okay, what's the style of, each of these different clothings, and when will they be used? What kind of people would use them? Then you have another AI that then matches the two pieces of data, right? And then comes up with the recommendations. And that turns out that that's actually a much more robust way of doing very complex tasks, very complex reasoning processes, than using a general AI
Right.
to do things. And to be honest, that actually goes along with how humans work, right? No, you end up having a set of experts that come together
So
and
you
then
can
come up.
say, in a way, they will be more experts and they will do specific jobs, specialists, kind of.
Yeah, they're specialists,
Okay,
exactly. So either
right,
they can be chained like this, or they just they have different they create different types of data asynchronously, and then
okay,
another AI basically integrates the data. So
right.
and that that's
On
that's
that
the real.
note, sorry, you're saying something.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So on that note, there was a thought that came to my mind when I was preparing for this podcast. Say in the future,
Hmm.
I know AI will not replace doctors, what everybody is saying, but doctors will have to learn this technology if they want to survive, adopt and adapt. and then they'll have to train bit differently. So when we were talking, or you were mentioning about the agentic AI, they'll do specific things. So say, for example, I'm a cardiologist. So do you think in the future there'll be some type of courses I'll need to attend that I master that, which I can utilize in my field, and then I become a specialist with AI accreditation? Do you think something will happen in
Yeah,
the
that's a
future?
very interesting thought. No, it is a very interesting thought. I think just like any tool, right? Everyone will need to understand how to use the tool.
Right.
Are we there at yet where we need like large conferences to help doctors do this? I'm not sure yet. And the reason I say that is because it's the field is moving so fast
Yeah.
that it's difficult. Like just 3 months ago, or maybe 4 months ago, I was using ChatGPT to answer medical questions. But now I would go to a more agentic workflow design to do, and I'm using that for all my market research things that I
Right.
might do, right? Rather than using ChatGPT, because even though that takes 20 minutes to get done, the output is so much
Right.
better, and so that's what I use, like uh, more than half the time when I have some deep research thing that I need to get done. So it's really difficult because it's moving so fast. What I think is best in this kind of environment is sort of a continuous learning kind of thing, where we have podcasts like this, we have
Sure.
webinars, things like that, where we are constantly talking about the new advancements and how doctors might be able to use them. I think we do need that capability, a translation layer.
Right. So from there, now could you please mention some of the applications or apps which healthcare professionals might find useful? Maybe they're already using it, they're not aware. So I only found out few apps I was already using, and I didn't realize they were all AI generated. So just if you can just name few of them.
Sure, sure. Um, so first thing is, if
ChatGPT for
that's
sure.
a
I think everybody is
yeah,
using.
yeah. If you're a healthcare professional, I mean, using something like ChatGPT would be a very good way of just getting into it, right? Starting to use it. Obviously, don't put any patient
Yeah,
information in it,
exactly.
but if you're just asking like simple questions, go ahead, use it. The other thing the next step would be something in the clinical decision support space, which is what you're probably going to be using ChatGPT for, would be something like open evidence. I'm not sure how available it is internationally, but open evidence, at least in the US, is a collaboration between Mayo Clinic, Stanford, other institutions. And the idea is to create this grounded AI that will provide answers. It can even write prior authorization letters if you wanted
Right.
to. Um, but it will provide answers, it'll provide the latest evidence. Um, the similar one that's not supported by academic institutions here is called Glass Health. And um, the claim to fame for Glass Health is that they can integrate with the EMR, with the electronic medical record, and potentially that will allow you to get real-time insights, potentially even during a patient encounter.
Right.
Um, so they're pretty early on, that particular startup, but it's something that doctors can use, and these are HIPAA compliant platforms, both of them.
And you mentioned
Um,
ambient at some point. Is that the
the ambient scribes, yeah.
scribes here?
So ambient scribes is another set of, yeah, I think there's a lot of them out there. The HIPAA compliant one that people can use, and it has pretty good support, is called Freed.ai, Freed.
Okay.
Um, and it's HIPAA compliant. It's a ambient scribe. You can try it for free. Um, there's another one called Cloud.ai. Now that's a little less well known, but the thing with them is that they will give you um, a microphone that you can attach to your lapel.
Right. Okay.
to your suit, right?
That's
And
really
then
handy.
that's kind of handy, and then it'll scribe that way. I haven't used Cloud.ai, so I can't tell you about the accuracy of the transcription, but
Right.
I'm told it's very good. Um, the thing with all of these is that they do make mistakes, and they do have hallucinations. Um,
Right.
and there was a recent study. I can send it to you to post at some point. Is on OpenAI's Whisper technology, where basically the transcription from that technology isn't great at all,
Right.
basically.
Right.
And I've seen the outputs from other AI scribes, and they completely miss critical details in the transcription. But the nice thing is that the transcription is there and you remember the patient. So
All right.
hopefully, right, as long as you're supervising it,
Yeah,
about 80%
of
of your
course.
work is done for you, you know. And there are companies like Ambience, for institutional listeners to this podcast. There are bigger people like Ambience, like a Bridge Health, that do these scribes, but they also can do at least are starting to implement some EMR automations. So they could go in and do stuff for you as well, in addition to just scribing the note, which I think is the main power, in the end of AI.
All right. Oh, great. So, Bhargav, I think we could go on and on and on. So there are lots and lots of questions and queries.
Yeah.
I'm sure audience listening to it would have more queries, but unfortunately, in the interest of time, I'll have to close here. And I would like to once again thank you for your presence here. And it was a wonderful, wonderful talking to you. Bye bye.
Thank you. It was very
Bye bye.
great being
Thank you.
here.
Take care. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.